Welcome back viewers, ladies, gentlemen, non-binaries and anyone with ears or other sound detection organs. Hope you enjoy. We are continuing with Chaos and Mayhem written by Lord Henry 7878. There is a link to the playlist in the doobly-doo. Chaos and Mayhem, a sexy space babes story part 18. Sister Mary didn't know who the men were beyond criminals. To be honest though, where the Shilvati were concerned, crime could mean anything from resisting a marine's advances to interspecies terrorism. In other words, there was a lot of wiggle room. Whatever she thought of them, she would provide them with the help they needed. That was the least she could do. And she wouldn't know till they awoke. The Deepan community convent had been keeping to themselves since before the Shilvati came, as most convents did, with the occasional community outreach, but once the trucks stopped coming up with food and supplies, the sisters had had to find other ways to survive. The river had turned out to be a godsend. Every so often, wrecked boats, trucks, what have you, floated down the river. The sisters survived on the food they obtained, and when that ran low, they started farming on the roof. So, after the explosions and shooting and everything, and more bodies came floating down the river, she and the girls had prepared to strip them for valuables and supplies. Then they discovered that 2 of them were alive. The Mother Superior had elected to take care of them. She and all the girls of the convent had things to take care of. Big problems. But they still helped those in need. That was basic decency, after all. Last thing I remember before passing out was dropping into the river. One of those Shilvati guns had bored clean through my leg as I went down. First thing I remember was feeling all that. Second thing was realizing I was in, not the comfiest bed in the world, but after prison it sure felt like it. I looked around. My bed was in a stone room with a desk and a shelf, and that was it. The world spun as I got to my feet, and immediately collapsed. I looked. My calf was still wrapped up tight. Ouch. Okay. This was gonna take some work. I looked around and grabbed a broom, flipping it upside down. When I got up again that thing held, go figure. I slowly hobbled my way out when I heard a voice. Where are you going? I stopped and turned around. Standing behind me was a nun. You know, habit, nun hat, that cool nun hood. She was short, too. Maybe chest high on me.
Trying to figure out where I am.
You couldn't lie to a nun, could you? Deepan Community Convent. We pulled you out of the river. That help. This nun had the thickest Irish accent. One could almost call it gooey. Of course she was an Irish nun. Guess they still made them according to stereotypes. Oh yes, yeah. It was coming back to me now. The holes were getting filled in. Jeff and I had jumped, I took that shot in the calf, blacked out when I hit the water. Whatever.
Thanks for saving me.
It was nothing, she said. We help those in need. She started walking, so I had a choice. Go back to my room and wait, or follow this here nun and see where I wound up. Tough choice, wasn't it? I followed the nun. As for where we wound up, well, it must have been time for mass. The nuns outside the chapel with AKs were kind of off-putting, though. But in a sexy way. In case the Shilvati come, my nun friend whispered. Especially now that they've been pouring in troops. I nodded.
Of course.
Pretty much everyone was the same way now. All the ladies of the nunnery came in and did their stuff. As a Jewish man, I recognized some of the prayers, mostly the big ones like the Lord's Prayer, and generally got the gist of the rest, but I wasn't really following. I guess I had my own personal prayer. Something like, for the love of God, get me out of this alive. I didn't actually say that, of course. That would have been rude. Anyways, The service was nice, though I don't think the Catholics originally had a prayer about smiting the enemies of mankind. Once they were done, an older nun got to the podium. If I had to guess, she was the abbess. "Sisters," she said. "Guests. A time of trial and crisis is upon us. Just yesterday, the Shilvati Imperium declared the state of Maryland a red zone." Everybody murmured and mumbled. "As such, we are now at war. It is true, we are a community of peace." Somehow the abbess turned even more dour. "But we all know the saying. Si vis pacem, para bellum." More murmuring. Had Napoleon been smart when he said that, he would have said si vis bellum, para pacem. If you want war, sisters, don't show it. It confuses the enemies. Well, this was the weirdest fucking sermon I'd ever seen. And I used to have a rabbi who smoked a bowl before every Shabbat service. After the Mass, I went and found my nun friend again.
How long has the nunnery been like this? It's
weird. These are weird times, brother. Sister Mary, by the way. She reached into her habit and pulled out a pack of cigarettes, sticking one in her mouth. "Smoke."
Tom. And no thanks.
"Suit yourself." Sister Mary lit her cigarette. "You believe in God, Tom?"
I suppose so. Well, I always heard about him in synagogue, and, well, I guess there has to be something. 'Cause if there isn't, then what's the point?
"But figuring isn't belief," she said. "Do you believe in God?" Sister Mary took a drag on her cigarette.
I what?
I had to think about that. Tough question, isn't it? She chuckled. "I'll let you think about it."
I may need that smoke after all.
Sister Mary laughed and pulled me one out.
Another question.
I stuck the cigarette in my pocket for later.
What happened to the guy I came in with?
"Mr. Jeff? He's working on something. Woke up and insisted he go to work. That was good. Glad they didn't eat him or something."
Yeah, sorry for asking, but this shit has me so worried. Aliens in prison and alien prisons. I was going to be a teacher.
Thomas, Sister Mary said calmly, "Do you know about the Book of Job?"
Yeah, like, in the Talmud.
Okay, I'd gone to Hebrew school, but I didn't remember much from it.
Okay, not really.
Hey, nobody's perfect. Sister Mary ground out her cigarette. Long story short, God and the devil send all sorts of horrible things after Job as a test of his faith. It's a good story. The point is, don't give up hope no matter what happens to you. The Lord has big things planned for you, you just have to survive long enough. That was kind of uplifting, but kinda dark, HM.
Thank you, sister. Now, is there anything I can do to make myself useful?
That was the perfect question to ask. As the days passed, it turned out that I was a godsend to these ladies. I was more than happy to help out where needed. I'd done a number of handyman jobs in high school, so I knew my way around a toolbox. Jeff and I rewired everything. Turned out this place hadn't been touched up since before the shill. We patched everything for them. Some of the nuns started calling us the convent's personal angels. Even the abbess got in on it. So of course it all came to an end after about a week. Jeff and I had finished some plumbing when the bell started ringing. That was the alarm around here. If someone saw the Shilvati from up in the tower, they rung it. Agent Rameshal, those of the interior, stood outside the small temple, shrine, basic holy place. Gore would know, but she was off doing something else. Whatever. If she'd had her way, she would have burnt the place to the ground, but when the satellite images revealed 2 escaped prisoners in there, Agent Yescaratedy warned her not to do that. Something about good relations. Far as Shalvos was concerned, The Pinkies had to learn to listen to the Shilvati, not the other way around, but she generally trusted the agent. But again, whatever. She turned on the mobile command unit's speakers. All right. Mick. Who has the mic? She looked around. Okay. Got it. All right. She took a deep breath. To the nuns of the Deepan Community Convent, I am Agent Ramesh Vose, with the interior. We detected 2 escaped prisoners within your borders, and are authorized to detain them. You will turn the prisoners over to us immediately. Hopefully all the Marines jumping out of the transports meant Ramesh wouldn't need an or else. But nothing happened. Damn it. Someone grumbled. Now we look stupid. After a while the door opened. Looks like they came to their senses. Alas, they did not. One of the nuns was coming out. Hold on a moment. Shulvos climbed out to meet the nun. The Marines tensed as the 2 women approached each other. Well, we have discussed your demands, the nun said. And the consensus is, she crossed herself. Go fuck yourselves. Each and every one of you. She lit a cigarette. Ramesh Shulvos bristled. You did not speak that way to a member of the Shulvos dynasty. Do you know who you're speaking to? Don't know, the bitchy nun said. Don't care. She blew some smoke in Shulvos's face, making the interior agent cough. God wants us to help the less fortunate, and, well, sending these 2 men to you would break that rule. Your God, a male God, how ridiculous. Would he rather we sent you all to him? Goddess damn, she was still coughing. Well. The nun looked thoughtful, much as these pink monkeys could. We all have to meet him sometime, don't we? Perhaps it was time to change tack. I guess, if I can't get Steinberg and Chilton out, then deliver them a message. Every day they aren't complying, people are in danger. Yeah, danger, whatever. The nun turned and walked back inside. Now fuck off before I put this cig out in your eye, okay? Hey, Shulvos was flabbergasted. I'm still talking to you. The nun made a gesture over her head that Shulvos had seen in the briefings, a fist with the longest finger raised. It indicated dislike and anger. Let's hope Agent Yeskarator's having better luck.
Far across Maryland, in Carroll County.
Agent Yeskarator and 2 militia girls sat in the back of the van they had procured from a human dealership. It was night time, so their targets likely didn't notice them, but it still didn't hurt to take precautions. They had been watching the occupants' activities all day, and now had a good fix on where they were at all times. Remember, she said as the girls readied their weapons. Stun only. We're here to detain, not kill. Yup. Yes, m. Yeskarator readied her own weapon and tapped a button on her omnipad. Something popped at the end of the street, and the whole neighborhood went dark. Now it was time. The 3 of them left the van and crept around to the side of the house, watching the IR people inside the house move around. They padded down the stairs to the basement door. Carameling, you're up. The Helcom girl had spent months studying the mechanical locks humans used specifically for situations like this. As she fiddled with little bits of metal, Yeskarator and Spack kept a lookout. It wouldn't do for the mission to be foiled by someone coming home at the wrong time, seeing them, and raising an alarm. Luckily, the lock opened with a click, and the 3 made their way inside. The basement was free of people, so they went for the stairs. Yeskarator held her breath as one of the heat signatures walked by the door. Okay, good. On my signal, wait for it, go. Carameling slowly opened the door and crept out, followed by Yeskarator and Spack. Okay, they were in the kitchen. Clear. That adjoined with the living room. Clear. As they made their way around, it became obvious the ground floor was clear. Upstairs. They crept up, clustering around the first door. Carameling opened, and Spack took point as she entered. And crunch. The Rayquaza hissed quietly. She had stepped on a toy of some sort. A small plastic block with tiny knobs that interlocked with other blocks. Even through the boot she appeared to be in pain. And someone was watching them. "Mommy!" Yescarata fired, and the kid fell back on the bed, out cold, but the damage was done. She could hear shouting from the other room. "Lyle, get the gun!" No sooner had she said that than a shot rang out, and Yescarata doubled over coughing. The armor had done its job, but the guns still hit hard, and they didn't stop force. She was going to be bruising later. Spack and Carameling covered her though, firing through the newly made hole as Yescarata made her way to safety. She could hear a thump as somebody hit the floor. By now, Yescarata was able to stand again. She picked up her weapon and made her way to the other room with Spack. Yescarata held up 3 fingers, counting down. On 0, Spack kicked the door open and the two of them opened fire. The human woman, though, clutched her chest and collapsed. Almost immediately, Spack's medical training kicked in. She ran the diagnostic program, and immediately stood back up. "Weak heart," she said sadly. "The stun bolts just about shredded the cardiac muscle." Yescarata sighed. She had hoped they could do this without fatalities. "Command, this is Head Splitter. Targets in custody, 1 fatality." She wasn't sure what they wanted with Lyle and Jason Steinberg other than they were family of one of the escaped terrorists, and she wasn't about to ask. End of chapter. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, click the bell so you don't miss any episode and do all the other YouTube stuff. Visit and support the author, all the relevant links are in the doobly-doo, and comment your opinions, good or bad. And I'll see you next time. And as usual, have a wonderful day.